All right, welcome to this new special edition of the Capitalist Investor. And what we're going to try to do is take some stuff that Mark Tepper talked about on TV this morning and kind of go deeper and dig deeper into what exactly is happening and what our thoughts are on the overall situation. And one of the things that he talked about was the silent or the peaceful protests, not silent, peaceful protests over in China. So
relatively silent.
Relatively silent because they have to be
white
peaceful.
Blank paper, and not peaceful on the police's end.
Right.
They're beating them pretty good.
But this is kind of something that really doesn't happen over there. So we kind of want to talk a little bit more and dig deeper on that. But let's first play that clip.
Protesters are holding up a blank white piece of paper. This blank white paper is a symbol of the frustration with the Xi Jinping regime. Platforms in the communist country now rushing to delete these images from the internet, Mark. And we saw what was reported yesterday, how the Chinese bots, they have a massive social media campaign to flood Twitter and social media sites with propaganda and pretty much pornography and escorts. So it just, crowds out any pictures of the protesting.
Yeah, which is, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so what I've heard is that these are porn bots, to your point, that are muting essentially what's really going on, right? And let me take a step back and say kudos to the people of China for finally standing up, against these just this insane nonsense that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. These lockdowns have just been horrific to the point where people actually lost their lives because of them. And China has no issue when you look at these protests with gunning people down in the streets. We've seen that happen. And if you think about it, China is laser focused on one thing. They want to become the world's superpower, economically, militarily. They don't care who goes down in their path. They are going to march forward, and they've made it crystal clear that is their priority.
All right, so real quick, Ryan. So overall, what's your take on the crazy stuff happening over there? Because this kind of is unprecedented. Like you protest in China, you can die.
So I would say it's unprecedented in one unique way in that it's widespread. So we've had little pockets of protest, Tiananmen Square in the late 80s, that was kind of fixed. And then in Hong Kong in 2019, 3 years ago, it was kind of fixed to Hong Kong. So this is a widespread protest. People are fed up with the lockdowns.
Yeah.
They've been locked down for 3 years. I mean, we know why this one was set off is because people burned to death in a building that they were locked into.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
the zero
terrible.
COVID policy literally is zero COVID. Like one case, you're locked up in a tower in your apartment building and you can't even leave. Like I'm pretty sure from my understanding is on your phone you have like a yellow light or red light. You basically they're telling you where you're when and where you're able to go right?
Work. You can't even work,
Right.
And so the Foxconn employees speculated were laid off, and I think you raise a very valid point. For us to even be seeing this, it must be severe because they have a pretty tight grip on the internet.
Yeah.
And Apple kind of playing along with them, right? So
yeah.
Apple released an update, and the protesters can't really share the same strategy that they had in 2019 in Hong Kong. So there's no airdrop feature for them to use, and somehow it's still bubbling up, and we're hearing about it.
So what does this tell you then about the overall economy? Right. So if Apple's deciding to get involved and infringe on people's rights essentially over there, which rights they don't have, I guess, in China's terms, right? If they're going over shutting the airdrop feature off, I think that, Mark talked about it on the segment about how, they're flooding pornographic images and stuff on Twitter, or they're trying to block out all kinds of things on Twitter to kind of, not show what exactly is happening over there. At least the Chinese government is.
Yep.
There's definitely going to be some economic impact because one of the interesting things about China is if you take a look at earnings in the S&P 500, you can think it's relatively small, but in the big scheme of things, it's not. 5% of earnings in the S&P 500 come from China, right? So the zero COVID
Apple specifically, I think, is exposed. So they can't make anything without China. I mean, maybe 5% of what they make is made outside of China. And they're working on that. I think they're trying to offshore to India as well. But so they can't make anything without China. And it's also, 20 to 25% of Apple's market,
right?
Hardware too. So it's and Apple's our last big dog standing, right? I mean, they've had a rough year, but not Facebook rough.
Yeah.
Meta.
I mean, you can even, throw out the argument, this could be like almost a national security issue with how exposed, we talked about semiconductors over in Taiwan, how much of the supply chain's over there. We talk about Apple, how much most of their manufacturing's over in China right now. So, kind of Apple's, at the helm of China. They're on their knees to China, begging to China because all of their, supply is made over there. Yeah. So they're at, their terms are on China's terms. So that's why they might be doing what they're doing, which is a cause for concern when it comes to national security here in America, right?
Well,
who's actually running stuff?
Though?
If Apple, the biggest company in the world, is on their knees to China, who's actually running stuff?
Well, so that's an interesting question. National security doesn't seem to be an issue for Biden. It doesn't seem to be an issue. No one cares about TikTok, by the way. That's the Chinese app. Apple's shutting Twitter down because Elon Musk took over.
Yeah.
They're not focused on TikTok. So great question. And you know how I feel about it. But
we could go deeper on that, but that's probably for another time.
Whose national security are we talking about? And so I don't think the administration cares. And Apple is functionally a country itself. I mean, it has more money than Brazil.
Well, this could be the beginning, in my opinion. And this is how, I don't want to be conspiracy theory. I don't, but like, this could be the beginning of maybe even making a move on Taiwan. Like, this could be trying to bring America, the world, kind of down their knees, because they are going to impact, supply chains. They are going to impact earnings for companies. Jobs that then goes to jobs. It's a snowball effect, right? So this could be the beginning of them disrupting things even more, right? This could be the beginning of their ultimate plan,
I don't
for the next couple of years, until Trump or until DeSantis, until maybe somebody else gets in office in 2024.
Well, so they had the unrest. We mentioned Hong Kong 2019, even though I misspoke and said 99. But so that just happened 3 years ago. And how did they shut those protests down? They went into a state of war against a disease at that point, and they've been in the state of war for 3 years. The war.
And we don't even have tons of exact knowledge on where the disease came from. That's a whole different kind of conversation.
There's your conspiracy theory topic. Right
Not
there.
saying that it is. I'm just saying I don't think it's ever been confirmed.
Yeah. No. Well, no one's looking, so don't hold your breath.
Well, that was fun stuff. That's our first kind of news segment.
Yeah.
That's kind of, we're going to do these on a weekly basis now on top of the Capitalist Investor. Mark Tepper, he's going on TV, 3 hours on every Tuesday, every Thursday, on Mornings with Maria, a whole hour on with Varney on Wednesday. So there's a lot of material out there. We just want to make sure that we are digging deeper, because in a minute and a half, 2 minutes that you're on TV, you can't really dig too deep. So we want to go deeper on these segments, and hopefully you get some value out of it. So we'll see you on the Capitalist Investor here in a couple of days.
Sounds great.